See if this works. Every time. Every time it's always magic. Magic what's gonna go on here. Let's see. Nope, that was the last one. I'm definitely gonna record it. Can't see it. Can't see it. Oh, well, we have one. Okay. Guess we should share a screen. Okay, let me start the recording. I'll share any kind of screen just to have something up to start with. Okay. I'm back with my too many screens now. Yeah, so there's exciting stuff coming up, as everyone knows. Last time we had really cool guests on, and that seems to be an awesome way to do this. So I've been reaching out to people, and there's interest. So I already have some for a couple weeks from now. A couple data scientists, our friends from Unstructured, which we did a really cool webinar with really recently, which was very cool, and some other stuff going on. So I think we'll be full for the rest of the year. So always good to have people to talk to. So I think that's going to be pretty fun. So I'm kind of excited about that. And very cool.
But I think the most important thing that you're excited about is your Halloween costume.
Yeah, and my wife surprised me by getting us another large decoration for our house. And I'm going to use that in some upcoming content because, sometimes you're never sure, is something real? Is it AI? There's certainly tools to help there and, a lot going on, but I have a 5-foot skeleton cat, which, you wouldn't believe is a real thing. Well, I got pictures of me next to it, but I did it as green screen, so I'm going to edit it and see if people can tell if that's real or not, and then see if I could have one generated so you could tell the difference. But yeah, I got my Ghostbusters costume, and this is the upgrade. I've got a patch here for Milvis to go in the Ghostbusters for the meetup next month. So the one this month in New York is really jumping. I mean, there's a lot of people signed up, which is pretty awesome. So we got a good venue, so and some really good speakers. So I'm very excited for this one coming up. We got Daniel from Voxel 51.
He's always good.
Yeah, those guys are really cool. And I'm doing a talk with them, webinars September 12th before this event. So that'll be fun. We got Robert Tran, the founder and CTO of InKeep, which we use for our chat, which uses Milvis. So it's like the awesome circle. I want to get him on a podcast eventually too.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
that's
he'll have some
awesome.
really interesting stuff. Then we've got one of the people from IBM Research. We're working on this interesting data prep kit for AI, and Milvis is part of that. That's also part of the AI Alliance. So that one should be really cool. So I'm very excited for this one. We got a lot of stuff going on there. But
Well, we also got San Francisco happening 2 days before that. Let's take a look at that agenda.
yeah, there is so many meetups going on. that it's unbelievable how much stuff we got. September, October, November. It's busy. I mean, you got one in 3 days for the third
That's it.
AI Alliance.
Yeah, so this one's really exciting. So the AI Alliance is a organization that's really trying to promote openness in AI and led by IBM. And we've been a part of the alliance for a few months now. Well, maybe much longer than that. But in any event, they wanted to sponsor this unstructured data meetup, which is super rad. So, we really can help them out because they're, all over the world, and helping them to, establish a location for a meetup is what we really wanted to be able to give back to this organization. And you can see that we actually made sure that the speakers for this event are all part of the AI Alliance. So led by a talk from the Llama team, from the Meta team.
Nice.
Want to get into the nitty-gritty details of Llama 3, which is super cool. And then we've got actually 3 other talks. There's even a lightning talk from IBM. So we actually won't be speaking, Melvis or Zillis, because there's just so many incredible projects that are part of AI Alliance. I think if we could do this an all-day event, we'd be, packed as well. So everyone should make sure that they register for this. I am expecting that we're going to exceed capacity at GitHub. And because of that, I do have overflow location just around the corner from GitHub. But still, make sure you register, make sure you come at the start the meetup if you want to actually be in the in-person at GitHub for network opportunities. Because once we hit capacity, that's it. The security guards are like, that's the end. And then the rest of us have to just go to SAP. It'll be just as great because there's still food, really lovely venue. And like I said, it's just around the corner. So still a lot of networking opportunity. But there's nothing we can do to control that. So if you want to be in that GitHub room, then make sure that you come early. In fact, I've been telling the speakers because we're all going to be meeting ahead of time that they're like, oh, we can be late. I'm like, no, you can't. They just won't let you in, folks.
Oh, that would be bad. Speaker can't get in.
Hey, I couldn't get in the February meetup,
Oh
and
wow.
they know me, and they're just like,
I,
Chris,
the room.
we're at beyond capacity. You cannot come in. And like people are looking at them like, wait, they know you? How come you can't go in? I'm like, it is the way it is, man. We have to go and do something else.
Hey, things are serious, man. You gotta. That's how it works. Wow. Wow. So yeah, I'm only extremely jealous here because
So
that's some lineup. You've got some speakers on the West Coast that pretty amazing. But like I said, we are getting one of the people from AI Alliance and IBM to be speaking on the 18th as well. But wow, that's this one's going to be recorded though, right?
oh, every single one is recorded, yeah. And so we'll get that posted really quickly. In fact, we usually get it posted within, I don't know, 12 hours. It's really, really quick, the edit and all that kind of stuff. So we've got this really dialed in.
Yeah,
And
that's really solid. I would definitely, if it was me, I'd be there at 5 o'clock, man.
you'll be surprised, Tim. People are. They're in there. The poor GitHub
There with a
security guards
little
are like, oh my
beer waiting
God, Chris,
outside,
the lobby is full.
camp out like you go into a concert because that happened to us at SAP in New York the other month.
But I mean, as giddy and excited as we get about this, I think, we just have to remind people why. Why is there so much attendance, and why are people, really keen? And I think it's because, there's a lot to learn in AI. And so not only do we hold these meetups, last night actually we had the same kind of really great meetup in Berlin. These are great opportunities to network and also learn a lot. But if you look on our website, we actually have a bunch of notebooks. So we've been really cranking on coming up with a bunch of notebooks so you can build little reverse image search applications, of course, all kinds of different RAG. Um, and we really want to make sure that we can make it easy for you to learn. So you want to go to the docs page and show all those notebooks that we've got. We've been really pushing hard, and they also, even though we've been pushing really hard, doesn't mean that they're low quality. We've actually built out a pretty rigid cycle for review to make sure that so that's the AI models. So if we go to our Milva stocks, I mean, it's always nice to get a bunch of notebooks, but there's nothing more frustrating to have a notebook that's like riddled with like bugs, or it's like an older version. And so we wanted to make sure that we really put our best foot forward, and make sure that we really take care of that and make it into a process, right? Nobody likes process, it's kind of boring, but I think to serve our community properly, we decide let's make sure that we do this correctly. And also, not only are they like, QA'd for, make sure that they work, but the team also makes sure that they're providing you with the most optimal approach to the solution, right? So if there's something that we can do to make that query a little bit better, or make sure that the structure of this notebook is going to be a little more efficient, we've done that. We've taken that approach to all these things. So I'm really proud of what the team's done with this, so people can take a look at these things as well. And
Yeah, and
then,
there's more
go ahead.
coming. There's always more coming too, because there's
There's
so
always more coming. And then, of course, they're also in GitHub as well. So we're trying to make sure that it's really clear, point them, from Zillus, from Milvus docs, and then, of course, they all live in GitHub land. But we want to make sure that everybody understands, what we've got here. And then Tim was actually showing just a second ago, we also have a model gallery.
oh yeah,
So,
it's really cool.
one of the top questions we get from a number of y'all is that, great, I think I got this, I understand what a vector database is. Now, what model do I use to, turn my content into vectors? And there's no easy answer. You need to make sure that the model that you pick is going to work the best with your data set. And so we created this gallery, and we're trying to give you a little bit more information. We're also, picking ones that we think are most likely going to be the ones that work with the kind of data sets that, we actually see with our users. Well, of course, you can create your own model. You can also pick something else, but this is just to help out. So you can see Tim's doing a little demo. You want to walk through what you're actually doing here?
Yeah, what's nice is to there's different uses for the models. Like if you're most people want it for embedding, but here you could see all the details. You're like, okay, I could use this one. It's Apache licensed, great. Already integrated to Milvus. It doesn't get easier than that. Some of the other ones you're like, okay, who's this from? Okay, I happen to work with them. How much does it cost? Oh, it's Voyage AI. I've been using them for something else. It's really helpful. I want a multimodal one. And then I could see it's got the great license. I could see the dimension, how many tokens. It's multimodal. I love that price. And it's already embedded into Zilla's cloud. You really can explore it. And we got a nice article here to give you a little head start. If you're doing re-ranking, there's not a ton of them in there yet, but those are expanding as re-ranking becomes more common. But here we got an open source one here too. So you've got a lot of options depending on what you're doing, which is
Naturally, you can go to Hugging Face to, look at like a much larger list of like all kinds of different models. But maybe if you're just starting out, it may feel a little bit overwhelming. Maybe like looking at that MTab leaderboard is you're just like not ready for that. So think of this as like a much, much smaller population that we think, these are good places to get started.
and
And
these
then as you
didn't
go ahead.
work. We
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah. And then, you can kind of graduate, right? You're like, okay, I'm ready for like the big leagues. Let me go to check out all the other, you know, models that are in Hugging Face, and you have a pretty good sense of what you're looking for. But what is it? It's like crawl, walk, run. This is definitely crawl phase.
yeah, this one I tend to use a lot just because it's easy. It fits, especially for small data, and I love Apache licensed. Not too many dimensions, not too bad. And again, free. And I love the Hugging Face guys, man. Anything from Hugging Face is high on my list. It's just the community of free with a happy face. You can't beat that other than we have a cool, happy, which is pretty cool too.
So I think last week we learned from our friends that, when it comes to, building out any application, but we can just talk about RAG in particular, since it's the hot topic. You need to make sure that every step of the way that you are, picking the best approach for what you're trying to build. So the first step, of course, is picking the model that's going to give you the optimal results from search. And I think it's really easy to just say, oh, I'll just use, OpenAI and just, voila, it's just going to work because it's an API and everyone thinks, wow, that's really great. But it's really important that you actually look at what results you're actually getting. Is that something that's going to make your customers happy? And then, try different models to see if, you're getting if other models are going to be more appropriate.
Yeah, based on like, are you going to be doing text? Are you going to be doing English text? You're going to be doing Chinese? You're going to be doing multiple languages? Pick the ones that work best for that. And, ones that go with, if you have to have certain types of licensing, make sure that that's there. But like, there's a ton.
Well, I think there's even like Voyage has like legal text, right? Which has legal jargon, right? Just
That's
think
a
about
big,
it. We all look at a contract and our head spins because it's got English, but it's like, what is this weird English, right? If this is how we think as humans, just think how your application's gonna feel. Be like, what is this weird, weird response?
yeah, I mean that is important. The results you're going to get back for something trained on, what space you're working with is really important. I mean, maybe you have to pick one that's, a paid one because you want to get drastically better results. And I mean, these are the options and the trade-offs you got to weigh. But the great thing is, it's very easy to experiment and get to the right place. You're starting off something. We get you started really well, and then you can experiment to try things out to go. Well, maybe I'll try this other one. And compare them against each other. And there are some tools out there that help you run a couple different models against a couple different LLMs because some LLMs are better than others for running what you're running. And what's nice is some of them you could just download with Olama and try on your laptop without having to go through a ton of different problems there. It's pretty easy to swap out
Tim, what is Olama? Just in case somebody's not heard of it.
don't know Olama. This is a really helpful system here that lets you run on your own little machine, or if you have a big machine, like I'm running Olama on my laptop, also on a Raspberry Pi, also on a NVIDIA Edge box. You can run this on a little server,
Well, what
and
is Olama? What's inside?
it is all you need to be able to download all the latest models, run them locally. It's I was actually using that because I just installed a new model today. I put Llama 3.1 here, and this provides everything you need to get models, serve them, and run them locally, which is pretty awesome. So if you're running a notebook, which I have a notebook open here, I get a Jupyter notebook opened right here, and you can connect to Olama just like you connect to OpenAI, but not paying. Let me see where I got that connectivity.
And that's really important. It's not that we don't want to encourage people to use OpenAI, but when you're just prototyping, it's really nice not to be worried about price, right? You just want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
like trying to get something rolling here.
yeah. Especially when you're not sure what you're doing and you're just trying out, like here, and it's tied into LangChain and Llama Index. All the libraries let you talk to Olama and use it as just any other LLM you put in your model, and it just works. It's really great for demos too, because sometimes you don't know how good's my internet going to be at this location. I can run everything locally. I run Milvus locally. And it's a great way to develop, and you don't have to worry about if you're working on something you're not sure, are you allowed to send that to the internet? This is a great way to run these things all local, which is could be very important, depend on who you are, where you are, what you're doing, you know. And the models they have, these new models, mostly from Hugging Face, availability are amazing. I mean, Llama 3.1, Google's Gemma, a bunch of the stuff from Mistral, these are great, and a lot of them are really tweaked to do things very specific. Like if you want to generate code, if you want to have a chat, if you want write little things generated, there's a lot of different things you can do. And some
What
of
well, Tim, so talk about why can't I just use whatever model to generate code?
Well, some of them aren't focused on that, and they may be able to generate code, but you might as well pick the things that have been optimized and trained on what you want to do. Like this one here uses an advanced technique for the mixture of experts, which is kind of cool. But they just trained on GitHub and different languages, so the code that it generates is going to be, much more optimized. You'll get better results. Or like if you want one that's multi-language, you pick one that's been trained on that. And it'll be, usually they're lighter weight, smaller, maybe fast because they just do that. Or some of them are designed to work with a GPU. I mean,
I
there's
guess, I mean, just so that people know, like if you use a model that's not optimized for code, it's gonna just give you a bunch of garbage. And you're gonna know in a second. You'll be like, those are not arguments for
or
that function.
it may give you hallucinated stuff, may give you, or it might just not be able to answer. I mean, some of them are nice enough to go, I don't know. Though sometimes they'll pretend to know, and you're like, why doesn't this code work?
It looks like code.
A smaller model, and it could have generated better stuff. The other thing you'll see is uh the newer things are, it's not always a better model, but they keep putting these out. Like this is 2 days ago, new one from Mistral AI for code generation. I would be surprised if this one wasn't really good. 80 different programming languages, it's pretty amazing. And you look at the benchmarks, again, is it a full-time job? I mean, I'm sure someone's a model watching admin or something, because the benchmarks kept getting run. There's new benchmarks come out. There's a lot of different options out there. I'm sure there's consultants who just do that, because I met one and in Princeton at the last AI meetup there. And they're like, yeah, our job is we talk to enterprise and recommend different models and different combinations. And I'm like, you recommend Milvus? He said, yeah, there's no other option. We don't have to worry about that one. Because Milvus, yeah, we don't have to.
So what are some things that are in the benchmark? Just so for folks who are not, as familiar, what are we benchmarking? What are we looking at? What numbers are good numbers?
Well, there's a bunch of different tests and benchmarks for different things you want to get out. Like human eval compares against how would a person generate the code, and how good is that? How good does it look like real code? Does it run? I mean, there's so many different ones. How accuracy, how much hallucination there. And then things like context length are important by, how much information can you feed it? How much can it give you back? We've all remembered earlier days of ChatGPT. You put in something, it gives you part of the answer because it couldn't fit it in in the space that it had. But yeah, there's a ton of them, and they keep adding more. Like here, you can see how good the code came out on Python. Again, pick which language makes the most sense for you. Wow, on Bash, they don't do a good job. Bash is weird though. I mean, it's, command line is a language, but wow, Python. See, like if you want to do Python, you're in a great place. If you want to do some of the other languages, not so good. But there's a lot of different tests. Your mileage may vary. I mean, depending on like, oh, you're like, okay, Python's really good here, but you got to try it. You know, it's nice. The benchmarks give you an idea. Maybe I'll look at this model first. But again, you might go, whoa, 22 billion parameters. I bet you this one is pretty large download because you're like, how much
Yeah.
space do I have? How much memory is going to take? Does this need an NVIDIA GPU and how many?
But
I know.
I think the we have to remind everybody these benchmarks are important because, you know, search quality, the results that you're trying to get from your search is really important. And so, as we just talked a few minutes ago, picking the right model and really checking to make sure, like even before you pick it, do your research, see like, what the benchmarks look like. Is it going to fit what you need? Try it out, test it out, look at the search results. And you can also do your own little evals. And some of these models will even give you tools, or they have blogs that talk about how you can do the evaluation yourself. But it's really important, and because your users aren't going to care. They're not going to care if you say something like, well, that's not my fault. That's, the model's fault. In their eyes, it's your problem. And so it's important. This is a really important step. So, take the time to do your research and conduct your tests so that you have a lot of confidence, at least in this first step, that, you're going to get, good results. And then the second step is going to be, is there other data that I can use that can enhance the results, right? There could be other non-vector data, right? You can use all kinds of other metadata that you might have surrounding the data set you have so that you can then further refine the results, right? And then, once you have a lot of results that are coming from your search, you can also re-rank them, right? So if I get 10 results from my query, which one is the one that is number one, so that I can, easily give that to the user? Are they all equal? Or, is the one that's first presented actually the worst one? Re-ranking is also a really important step. So these are all things that take a bit of time. So Tim, I can't imagine that when you first approached this, that this was like a 5-minute thing. You just kind of picked a model and then off you went.
No, I mean, I think when you're first learning, fortunately, things like Milvus have examples and they have built-in ones that are good, especially when you're starting out, you're looking at some one text, a couple documents, it's good to start there. I think when people go, and it happened at the Princeton meetup, people said, well, what are people going to do? Well, we just said it, looking at models, trying things out. I mean, there actually is AI to validate other AI models, but you need somebody, you're the wrangler and learning all the different things you should look at, all the parameters. There's certainly more tools being added, but there's a space for people to look at all the different things that need to be checked. Like who's making sure the data is ingested clean, it's the right data? Do I need to enrich it or transform it? Would it be better if I converted it from, for me, RSS to JSON? Does it need to be translated? Do I need to run some small models first? You start seeing there's definitely humans in these pipelines, humans putting together these agents. Then, we have the ability to manage and think about things that, don't matter as much to the AI yet, but it matters to the people using it. And we know, well, is this usable? How can I optimize this for the people who just want results? They don't care that I'm using 4 different models and one's on OpenAI and one's open source. And, there's Milvus in the middle over here, and then there's a function call. They're like, I want to be able to know, should I take this train or that train? Is this the best thing for me to buy? Is this really the thing that I searched for? those are that's what people want, and people kind of have to be in that loop.
So,
So
like I said, how long do you think it took you the first time that you did this?
well, if you go to the Milva site and you follow along the examples, those are really fast. But to know what they mean and know why maybe I want to try something different, that could take a while, especially there's so many things. I mean, there's a new model every day, trying not to get to drown from newest model. You're like, oh, let me forget about Llama 3.1. Mistral just put one out today. I mean, that's every day there's new models to try to, start with what you need and you just change out one thing. You're like, okay, why am I using this metric type? Why am I doing this? Just question each piece. Or you look at something, you go, I want to search two different fields, which is really cool. Like I have an application that has camera images and the weather at that camera image. Well, if I'm doing a search, maybe just searching one's okay, but to search two and then pick the best results when they get re-ranked. I mean, there's a lot to tweak though. You could always see like, okay, how close is this to what I wanted? What do you want? I mean, that may be the hardest thing is what data do I want? What data can I get? How do ah, how do I want to store it? Because there's like when we're setting up a schema, this can be hard because you're like, how many fields do I really need? Should they be dynamic? Can I, define them all beforehand? How many vectors do I need? Should it be a separate collection? And now I'm looking at partitioning to, because some data, and these are techniques and things that have been around for a while in other spaces.
So,
Partitioning.
looking at this data set, Tim, like what are you trying to accomplish?
So what I have here is the amalgamation of two sets of data. So what happened is originally I wanted to look at street cameras. And I'm like, that's great data, unstructured data. I'm just going to put in the image from the camera. But then I found a source that gives me all the cameras, gave me a lot of metadata. And I'm like, that's valuable data. And I'm like, I may want to filter on that, especially for location. And I know Milvus is going to add more features for geo stuff, but just having the Latin long gives me the ability to do a lot of joining and acquiring new data. So it's nice to have those. And when I
And
got
so
the,
with this data though, you're looking at this image data at these locations so that you can determine whether you want to go there or go past there. Is
yeah, I
that
mean,
is that what you're trying to
yeah. So I take the camera image and then I run it through YOLO, which I'm gonna update that. There's some new vision models which are pretty cool, but I'm counting the number of cars, trucks, looking for other stuff in the image. You know, if there's a crash or if I see fire, I don't want to go there. Or if you do a count a number of cars. If there's 100 cars on a small street, probably don't want to go there. But there's more factors, and I decided to enrich it with the weather. Well, what's the weather at that location? So using the lat long, I do a look up to a rest endpoint, get all the weather right there. And I add those as extra fields. Now, this is where the decision comes like, well, if I'm going to use this for a decision system, a chat where I'm going to go, what's the best way, like as part of an agent hitting stuff, what is the best way to go somewhere? Looking at how busy it is, number of cars, what's the weather there, and go, okay, let me look at an alternative transport and have one for should I take the subway? Should I drive? Should I take a train? Should I take a bus? All these different things have a bunch of attributes. You start making these advanced decision systems there's a lot of data you need. I mean, in the old days, you just had, these fields, but I didn't have the image. I didn't have video or audio or long text. Maybe there's a broadcast
Mhm.
describing what's going on in an area. There's so many different
I have another thing for you to add.
oh no.
So when I drive down 101,
Yeah.
when depending on the time of year and the time of day, the morning sun can be right in your eyes. And so there's like a
Can
pretty
be.
significant slowdown, but it changes, of course, over, depending on, the height of the sun. And so knowing that, it's going to slow you down by just 5 minutes because everyone's just blinded for a few minutes, and then it's, back to normal. But that's because I know that because I experienced it, and I know in my brain, like I've already cataloged that. Oh, okay. In the fall, with the time changes, that's
Like
going to
7
get
o'clock,
earlier.
don't go over here. Yeah. Yeah,
But
those are
that's
all, yeah, so many dimensions, so many different things you can add. And again, maybe you can, what's nice with unstructured data, maybe that was in a podcast related to that area. And that is also in the collection or in another collection. And I could, instantly search that back and get similarity to where I want to go. And now you've got more things to add to an agent that makes decisions on where I should go. And being able to something like that with seasonality, that makes sense to be in Milvis. So I pull that back out as part of my routine there, going, oh, you want to be on 101. Oh, at this time, the current time is this, and the current time of year is this. Uh, 5 minutes adds.
position of the sun is this.
I mean, all these are things you can be looked up. I mean, those are all data sources. Most of those are public. And if you're writing an application, I've had companies I've worked with in the past that have a ton of other private resources that give you a lot of different things like crime in a region, just things they know over time. And those all can be looked up, plus all the things you can look up from unstructured data is you can make really smart applications to make decisions on the fly. I know they're adding some of that to Google Maps, but you're not always in Google Maps.
So I mean, I'm guessing that when you first started this app, you had maybe just a couple fields. Like you talked
I
about,
had
you just had the
image
image.
text, I had the ID, and I had like the name, and I'm like, that's probably good enough. And then I'm like, oh, I'm then Latin long is just but you evolve and you try things out, and then you see you need other things, and it's really easy to do this. Now I could have made dynamic fields, so I could just have a JSON field here. We're still adding additional features to JSON, but these are ones I knew I needed. But yeah, the flexibility in Milvus is great. But when you're learning, there's a lot of options. That's why you got to look at the tutorials. You got to try things out because there's a lot of options. I mean,
Mhm.
we are blessed with so many different ways you could do things. But some people want, a an opinionated version of what I should do. Like, hey, what's the way to do this? I mean, we probably should train an LLM model to optimize setting up your collection.
Yeah,
Train that on Discord and some other things we have. So you're like, hey, what should I do for this type of data?
that's a really great idea. That's a really great idea. Cool. So hopefully everybody can see that Tim's enthusiasm for unstructured data is through the
I mean,
roof.
it's just adding a dimension we never had before. Well, I mean, we're in the real world. You now have access to the real world, which is pretty amazing. I mean, real world stuff. In the real world, make your life better. And you can own the data, own the own the model, own your environment. What did we just have? We just had an event. I wanted to look at that report. But yeah, we just did one in Princeton with a bunch of startups, and it was pretty amazing. There's some new startups that I've turned on to using vector databases because they're like, I didn't think of that. But it's something you got to think about. You're If you're not using AI and it's not augmented with a vector database, some little startup of three people is going to come by and shake you up because the power of this, if you've got the data and you know what you want to do, you can get some serious stuff done. It's very impressive. We didn't mention all the we're running out of time, I know, but we didn't mention all the things this month because we got another meetup, right?
Yeah, we got another one in South Bay. So that's we've got actually our friend from Nordstrom that's actually going to be sharing a use case that's actually in production. So I think it's
Nice.
I think it's really nice to get these real live use case deep dives because he's going to share with us, a lot of the pains that he went through, right? As you just heard from Tim, like you start these projects with three fields of data and then it expands because you realize, wow, there's so much more that we can do. So and they're really all about building out their recommender systems, which
Nice.
if you've ever gone to any of these like e-commerce sites, I think they still have a long ways to go, right? They're still giving us way too many options. There's so much other data um, that they could utilize to help really narrow down like the options. I think there's nothing worse for a shopper to have, too many options. You're just going to overwhelm us. And personally, I just want like recommendations that are like pretty close to what I'm thinking about. I know there are some people that actually like to go through every single thing, but I just don't have the
You don't have the
energy for
time.
that. I just don't
That's
care.
actually we need recommendation engine for models.
Yes. Yes, we need recommendation engines for models. Absolutely.
Oh,
Um,
that's a great demo. Ooh. Okay, that's something to think about. I'm gonna talk internally on that one. That would be great. Like, you get the whole catalog and like, well, I'm doing this. Here's a an example of what the data looks like, what I'm trying to do. Recommend some of that.
yeah,
Here's my
yeah,
budget.
that could
Uh,
be a project for you.
yeah, I like that. I don't know how hard that is, but it sounds cool. Just experimenting there is a fun one. But yeah, this is another good one. And and it's nice to have an end user. We're gonna have that at the New York one with Inkeep because they're using Milvus for a chat, which is awesome. Very
Cool.
cool.
So, last week when we wrapped up, I had asked our friends, what they thought, what's going to happen in the near future. Let me ask you the same question.
Yeah, what's the near future? I mean, I guess what depends on near. I thought the push for all these new models would slow down, but I think that's the opposite. I think the only thing that may slow things down is around the election and around some of the potential laws happening. As we've
Mm,
seen, California got hit with a AI law. I think those might be popping up, and maybe some people on social media are causing problems, which can may slow us down. But the cat's out of the bag. We can't undo. It's like once they set off the atomic bomb, it's there. We just have to regulate it, use it for good, and think about it. So I mean, near term, I think there's a little blip there. There's some regulations, but like with everything else, with big data, with the internet, this is part of life. It's a tool. It's an amazing tool. So that's just going to expand. I think we're going to start getting what happened to data lakes happen more to the unstructured space and the generative AI and LLMs. You're going to start see more ecosystems come around it, so things are better managed. There's all the metadata tools and security and governance and a lot of different companies are gonna spawn up around to make things like we have for all the other enterprise things. I'm not sure what's gonna happen with things like the lake house, how that combines with unstructured data, if they'll always live next to each other, if they'll somehow combine. They're definitely being used in common applications, but I think that's got space. The push into the real world with more GPUs and processing everywhere, small devices, robots. I mean, the push for more robots keeps coming. The push for non-phone AI devices is just there's been some blips, but the hardware's there, the tools are there, the networks are there, there's new network speeds coming out. There's it's fast forward. There's gonna be a couple of bumps and there'll be some setbacks when either regulations or someone will have a problem, but there's another $1 billion AI startup came out, was that a week ago? $1 billion of funding for the open AI guy. There's there there's a lot of interesting things coming. I think now is the time. I think that's why people are coming to the meetups and events because there's interesting things coming, and we're at day one, maybe
Yeah.
day two. There's so much advancement happening. What we're doing now is, where the internet didn't have the ability to change the background color. That's where we are for AI. We're the early stages. The things that'll happen in the next year, 2 or 3, or I don't
So
even.
this means it's opportunities for all of you guys. So it's not just building the next Gen AI app, but you can build all those tools, as Tim mentioned, that, are needed to support, the infrastructure, and all the regulation and compliance that are just needed with anything that's in production.
Yeah,
Lots of opportunity.
yeah. This is the gold rush. now's the now's the time. Maybe you'll make more money selling the shovel than looking for gold, but now is the time. Start building
Excellent.
take your claim and let's start going.
Well, if anybody wants to join us in our next opportunity next week, just hit up Tim. You can also hit up any of us to join us on our at our in-person meetups, or we also host a weekly webinar. So we're happy to check out the cool projects that you're working on. You can see Tim's enthusiasm is through the roof. Uh, I'm sure if you have any kind of edge device in your solution, he will be super thrilled to take a look and give you a lot of feedback about all the other cool things you can add to it.
Yeah, I just talked to someone from MetaMe today who has a really interesting data transformation stuff, and they didn't hear it. They've never heard of vectors before. Like they kind of knew, but they didn't know. And then when I showed them what Milvis can do, they're like, okay, we're changing our infrastructure. Like, because this makes so much sense for them because they have it's basically like a Web3 for data ownership. And they're like, well, this is perfect. We get it vectorized, we get it searchable, and we can still have pieces encrypted. And there's so many interesting things going on. There's so much space left to build your own stuff. It's
So Tim, I think one final question for you for today. How many of these cat Milvis shirts have you
not
designed?
enough. I need to make another one. I'll probably have a nice Halloween one. If you talked images, I found a couple of new free image generators that are doing some really, really good output. And there's you can see them in the articles. There's some cool stuff.
Your poor cats. They don't get any royalties.
They get the premium food. They get
Okay, folks. Well, we're going to sign out here, and we'll see you again either in person at one of the meetups next week, or we'll be here next Friday again.
Very cool. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.